Soho Theatre. You started there. At the Soho Theatre, have you performed here before?
I think I have. I know I have. I did an Edinburgh show once here, and I must say I don't really quite understand the whole Soho Theatre thing. I'm always looking and going, "Oh, it's odd, there," or and I don't know. So no, I'm very little to do with it.
Yes, yeah, but it's I think it's sort of quite a nice, intimate venue, isn't it? So kind of people coming up. We were talking about Michael Biblia before, and he's taking a risk coming here, isn't he? But it's nice enough and small enough to, yeah, and
I think anybody sort of in comedy or storytelling will know his name.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think they do. They seem to have a very good way of getting in touch with the right people to come to stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you're here. I mean, because we were saying you live in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
So you've travelled down for the comedy store gigs.
Well, sort of a few things. Like I was doing a theatre show with Rory Bremner in. This is what it gets like. I don't know, where was I? No idea. Somewhere north. Bolton was last week. Somewhere or other on Monday. I was somewhere on Monday.
Yeah.
Up north. Can't remember where. And Huddersfield, that was it.
Huddersfield,
Lawrence Batley Theatre, very lovely theatre.
Yeah.
And then I came down to London because I was doing a theatre show with Henning Bain. It was just a double header with us, and that was in Stoke. So I thought, well, I can go to Stoke on the train, go back to London.
Okay.
So I've been sort of in London since then.
So you kind of fit it round stuff and
and go what's going to be my base.
Yeah. Okay. So these Soho comedy store gigs. I mean, you're on a bill of now because I've never been to the comedy store. Is it a nice gig or?
It's an amazing gig.
Yeah.
It's the best gig.
Really?
I really think it is the best gig to play. Every comic, no matter how long they've been going, still gets a little bit of butterflies not because it's a hard gig, but because you want to do well at the store, because when it goes well, it's set up like theatre. It's not tables and chairs, there's raked seating, but they've got drinks, so they're relaxed. It doesn't have the theatre kind of onus of it. They're ready to laugh. And the whoosh from the audience is amazing.
Oh, totally.
And I think it's one of those gigs that, and you're always on with good people. So I think everybody always says it makes you up your game to make everything, no wasted words and right on it.
Is it nice and kind of intimate as well, like the whole low ceiling thing?
Yeah, it's got the low ceiling. Although it's big, it's like, I suppose it's maybe 350, 400, but it's got the low ceiling. And John Ward, who runs it, when the smoking ban came in, he got a smoke machine. So always just before the start of the second half, the whole place is awash with smoke, and it does give it the atmosphere. It's great.
Well, I think gigs do miss that.
Yeah.
I remember seeing some well shot comedy DVDs when you have the wide shot and you have the puffs of smoke.
Yeah, it's great.
That's what you're aiming for.
It suddenly makes what a time of day it is. You suddenly go, oh, it's late night, smoky, and it makes it sort of secretive, which is what comedy should be. Like it's only for us in this room.
Secret club. Yeah. But these gigs are probably quite different because you're on a bill rather than it being your show.
Yeah.
Is that a welcome change then?
It's very good for. Well, I like when you've been, because I tour on my own. So I do 245s. So sometimes you're a bit like, oh, you might have someone else to talk to other than sound people.
Yeah.
Lovely as they are. But I do often go, do you know, that's all I speak to is people who do lighting and sound, and they're usually men, and they like to talk about lists of music and things like that.
The same conversations.
Yes. Yeah. And they're always a bit disappointed that I don't have a list of, favourite bass players on a live album, kind of things like that. So doing gigs with other comics is always brilliant, because like this week we were going, oh look, it's all the old people on the bill. It was like Simon Evans, and it's Jeff Innocent, Davy Jones. So it's just, you have a laugh with people.
Yeah.
And but it's also good because, like, stuff I'm working on for my next tour show, I forced myself to go, well, you've got to do it at the Comedy Store. And it's amazing, just because things have to be that much tighter in a 20-minute set before an audience drinking going, we really would like to laugh now. That one piece, which is a story, and I did it, and it just whipped it into shape. Just as I was saying it, your brain is going, oh, that's the way to get to that quickly, that makes that. Things like that. I've been sitting at a computer going, what's the funniest way to say that, and how just happened instantly.
So it's the pressure of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like these audience need something.
You're not editing yourself in a way, it's like you're having, the way you are if you're having a conversation, it's just stuff's coming out and you don't think you're going to say it. And that's what happens when you're on stage. The words just come out in the right order and you pick the right words. Whereas at a computer, you've got too much choice.
Yeah.
And no reason to pick which word you're going to pick. You've got too much, time to decide. Whereas that's why I often tape it when I'm doing it, because I go, whatever I say on the stage is going to be the right words, and then I'll write out from what I've said.
But do you find it slightly difficult? I mean, when I've done little bits of performing, you kind of think, right, I want to phrase that differently, but then you get onto stage and you still do it the same old way. Is it like trying to get out of that habit? Is that ever difficult, or trying to rewrite
Not really,
something?
because if I'm saying it, if I don't like the way I'm saying it, then I will deliberately change it.
Okay.
And if I don't change it, it's because I can't find a better way to say it. And so then sometimes what I'll do is go, well, leave it. Don't do it for a while. And I've done that with stuff, and then you come back to it, maybe 2 years later, but you come back to it better, or you've had a different influence, or like I do more voices than I used to do now. So when you come back, you go, I'll give it a go, and then it will work again. Or if it still doesn't work, really, forget about it. It's not funny. No.
But I suppose there's a point, if it's a bit that you really like and you thought would work, letting it go like that is kind of just a bit heartbreaking, maybe, or...
Well, sometimes there are things that you go, I really like that, and there'll be maybe a third of the audience will like it. And sometimes you go, right, well, I keep it in for sort of texture because it's interesting, or will I just be harsh? And if it is something that I think was worth it for interest, or sometimes it's just words, you go, like a subject, you go, well, that's an unusual subject, but I'll keep it in for that reason. Or other times you go, no, you just have to, you like it, but it's not helping.
You just have to drop it.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, you do see some people who kind of love a bit so much that they will just keep it in for themselves sometimes, just because, they have so much fondness towards their material. But I suppose it's a balance, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, what is the point of that? Because, what you're doing is comedy. So if it's
trying
not...
to be funny.
Yeah, if it's not making them laugh or making them even interested, but you like it, then say it at home a lot. Take it out of the show. Yeah.
It's an ego thing, I suppose, isn't it?
Well, I think I think it's indulgent to do that to the audience.
Yeah, but just because you think it's so good.
Yeah. Because clearly, bottom line is, I think if it's so good, why aren't they laughing? And that's what I tell myself. I go, it's not, you're not good enough to make it funny yet. And I've had that with stuff where I've tried to make points. and it was weird. I did an Edinburgh show, and it was sort of the time when the whole sort of Jordan and all these sort of awful, very brassy women were coming out, and it was meant to be that they were empowered. And I was thinking, no, they're not. They're damaged, and it's damaging to women and how we view women. So I was trying to make points, and the audience kind of looked at me like, oh, we're happy for you to make this point, but. Good, you're doing the comedy. And I thought, I'm not good enough to make it funny yet.
It's a pause. Yeah. So the focus is always just totally on laughter. And is it kind of, do you judge it on just basically how much laughter you're getting back?
Well, it's on laughter, but also, like, I'll be strict with myself on things that if I suddenly realise that I'm doing something, and then might watch a few comments and go, oh, everybody's doing that. So then you go, I don't want to do it anymore. No matter how much the audience will love it. Like I did do, years ago I had a routine about Argos. I loved it. It was a great routine. I did it on the radio. And then I was in the club one night and I thought, 2 people have done routines on Argos. That is now hack. Just because everybody's doing it. And it doesn't make the routine not good. But it is that thing that then you go, like, comics might watch someone and go, oh, that word gets a laugh. Whether it's Primark or Argos or whatever it is, they'll go, Kerry Katona. People laugh at that, so I'll do something about that. Which is where it becomes hacky and all watered down, because you weren't annoyed by Kerry Katona, you just thought that it got a laugh.
Yeah.
So I think, just the longer you're doing it, if you can not be doing the subject that everybody's going to do, then obviously also you don't have to worry what anyone else is doing.
Even if it's not intentional, if it comes across that way.
Yeah, it happens. And I've had that with reviews saying, I had a true story that happened to me in Greg's Baker's in Edinburgh, and it was when I first moved there and realised how much Scottish people swear without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
This man went into Greg's Baker and he went, have you got any sausage rolls? left, and the guy at the counter went, "Oh no, get to fuck, we just had the lunch rush." And I was just standing there very English all of a sudden going, "Oh good Lord, oh no, get to fuck, we've had the lunch rush." And it was a kind of funny story, and I worked on it, and then a review just said, "But then covers all ground like Greggs the Baker's." And I thought, well, that's not fair, because that just happened in Greggs the Baker's. It wasn't a routine about Greggs the Baker's, but I thought, now you kind of spoilt it for me because you've made it look like a hack thing because I've mentioned Greggs the Baker's.
And as soon as they've said that, it's sort of, even though you know that it's not the case, it's problematic like that because a reviewer is always looking for something to criticise. Even if it's an excellent show, there needs to be something where we go, "Oh, I didn't like that."
And the fact that they were wrong didn't make me not. I still kind of went, somehow, you've spoiled it for me, that I don't like it so much.
So you then
now.
Dropped that piece after that?
I've dropped that, but and then I'm going, well, can I say it happens in another baker's? And I'm going, but there's not a chain of bakers that is so true as that.
So gritty and...
So it is a difficult thing of, you want to make things as personal to you. Is that weird thing as personal to you somehow makes them more universal, so you get laughs, but I don't think you just want any laugh. I mean, it's about, somebody can go on and do every routine you've ever heard. Audience will love it, but they're not comedians. So comics will stand there going, "Jesus Christ, have they not heard this joke?" But they haven't, so they'll laugh. So I always sort of say, like, say a young comic, I go, just because they're laughing doesn't mean it's good.
Absolutely. No, you do find that specifically with magic, which is a sort of background that I've come from, is that people they bring out the old lines and and then, like,
they're not their own lines.
And I mean, it's more difficult because you're working with cards. How much can you say about a pack of cards? But still, you need to be coming up with fresh stuff, and otherwise you are cheapening yourself. And I suppose you're going to be damaged in the long run because
and you feel cheap. That's the thing. I think it is. It's like being unfaithful to someone. You go, well, it was a bit of fun, but I feel kind of like I've ruined everything. And it is that. I think if you feel cheap, then there's something wrong with your comedy. But other people don't care. Some people don't care. So they're happy enough.
It's a balance between kind of pleasing the audience and pleasing yourself, I suppose. I think when I was younger, I did a magic trick, and I ran out of cord, and I used the line, "I was born with more cord than this," which got a great response, but I'd copied it. And when everyone was saying, that was such a good line, I was like,
it's like, but I've cheated.
Exactly. Now your radio show, is that happening anymore, or is that?
Got a meeting, not the one that I did, but I have had a meeting, and they do the Radio 4 thing and going, well, we'd love to do something with you, Joe. Because I kind of left it after they'd sort of said no to another series. I was a bit like, well, I can see why, because that's a lot of writing, and maybe we actually do want to do something else. We also had a long-running thing where we had a sitcom in production, me and my writing partner, and that was going so far and really good, blah, 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 and then of course, classic, the person who commissioned it leaves. So then the radio said, well, why don't you do the sitcom you're doing for TV as a radio show? And the sitcom TV was basically my stand-up persona kind of thing. So so we did a script for it. And the projection was so funny because they said, well, we just think the main character, me, is really unlikable. And they're going, she was just saying things that nobody was saying. Why would we like this? And they also said, why would we be listening to it? And I thought it's like that classic Seinfeld episode where George Costanza has a meeting in television. They go, why are you watching it? And you're going, because it's on television. And you do want to say that to them. They're going, look, what investment does anyone have? If they like a show, they're watching it. They're not watching it for any great reason other than they like it. And it's on television or it's on the radio. So it was very weird to go. And I think it's because they didn't realise they're reading a script. And what you can say as a stand-up, you can get away with all sorts. Because my persona is to be slightly mean to people and offhand about stuff. But they saw it as, in a sort of sitcom written down. They go, oh my God, the woman's a nightmare. And it was really weird. And I went, oh, so you don't like me? All right.
That's all right, as long as I know where I stand.
And it's kind of insulting as well, because I kind of thought, don't you think that as long as I've been doing comedy, I would know what I can get away with and what will be funny to people and what will make people just go, well, that's clearly a very horrible person, we can't laugh.
Yeah. No, it's tricky, definitely in the TV area. I remember Stuart Lee saying about how someone new comes in, they want to make their stamp.
They want their project,
yeah. But it's so harsh on the performers that...
Yeah, completely, yeah.
And also, I think as a comedian, like you say, you know an awful lot about comedy, and you can see the mistakes these people are making, and you can get, well, it will work, just trust me.
Yeah.
And it's just a tricky thing, I think.
It's very tricky, and sometimes I see it from their point of view as well, but you can have a meeting with someone over a script, and you've worked on this script. Maybe you've done 5 drafts before they've seen it, and they will come in, read it, give you their first idea. And I'm always like, don't you think I had that idea 8 ideas ago? But why it's sort of arrogant for them to think that their first idea will be a great idea. And often they don't even go, have you thought about it? They just go, oh, you could do that, and go, yeah, we thought of that, but we didn't do it because blah, 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 blah. So I got kind of disillusioned in that. I thought, I don't want to waste my time with meetings. Yeah. And like to say, what with the all equipment that you have now, so I thought, well, let's start doing a podcast, and we're doing some little short films as well. We've started, because that's quite another thing about living in Edinburgh. There's loads of people who know how to do stuff with equipment, and they're going, oh, yeah, sure, yeah, we'll do it, excellent. Yeah. We're excited. So that's good. So weirdly, it's that thing of not pursuing it. Somebody else went to Radio 4 and mentioned me, and they came back and went, oh, they want to do something with you. And I went, oh, that's brilliant, I would love to. And it's even better because I just concentrated on writing material and working on my thing rather than working on meetings.
And it's great if they've specifically come for you, haven't they? Because then you can say, well, this is me, you've asked for me.
Yes, so this is what you'll get.
Let's not complain. Yeah. But then I think the podcasting thing is so good because you've got so much freedom, but then on radio you've got so much exposure. It's again that balance. But you're finding the podcasting good, are you? Or?
Yeah, I mean, Radio 4 meant that I could start touring. That's what that did for me. Right, and then from doing tours, then you start to build up an audience, and it's definitely the best. Get more people through podcasts, through Radio 4, then weirdly, and Twitter wasn't around then, but then really through Twitter and podcasting, you reach directly to people, don't you, that are similar to you. And that's what I love about Twitter. You go, people who I've never met, and they've just written something hilarious off of my comment, and you go, they would love my show, of course. And that's it, and that builds up, and then they will say, oh, we'll see you're in, Stoke, we're coming to see you.
It's brilliant. It's an organic thing, isn't it? And it's people can slowly build an audience that they want, rather than...
I mean, unfortunately, I think you do every now and again, you need a splash. You need to have a little bit of profile to keep being able to talk.
Keep it alive,
just so enough people know who you are. Rather than people who are, just the people that are in Twitter and then listen to your podcast because you're putting it out there. They're people who are more discerning and looking for stuff, but just general people who go, oh, that I saw her doing The Apprentice, I'll go and buy a ticket. You need those people as well.
It must be a nice thing as well to think that you're bringing stand-up to an audience that might not know about it, or your sort of stand-up. On Radio 4, you're kind of attracting people who wouldn't even think to go to a comedy gig. So there is that side to it as well.
I think comedy, mainly through Michael McIntyre, which I know people slag off, but I think it did a great deal for comedy, in that it opened it up to people who would go, oh, we don't normally go to comedy, and then we realise there's a comedy club in our town. Or that, Richard Herring was at the local theatre, so we'll go and see what that is. What is weird though is that, I had people who said, oh, we saw your Michael McIntyre, so they'd come to the theatre show I was doing, and they said, oh, we really enjoyed it, and next week we're coming because Jim Davison's on. And that's when you go, as precious as you'll be about your art, you go, to them it's just comedy.
Okay.
They've it's just going to see funny people they've seen on the telly.
Yeah.
And that was, I thought it was really funny and kind of like, well, get you for thinking about your art. It's just a night out, and it's amusing people off the telly.
It's tricky. Well, because from a comedian's perspective, it is an art, and it's something that you've honed out, like an alternative.
It's good. It is. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, proper alternative comedy, like because you work at the Stand.
Yeah.
Don't you? Yeah. Sort of specifically there, you think this is art. Look at all of this, and then but then you've got the other side of it as well, which is it's just a good night out.
Yes. And I really enjoy when, like I did recently, I did a little tour of village halls in Cumbria. Because there's a great gig in Cockermouth, Kirkgate Theatre, and I loved that. It was really fun. And the guide, he runs a thing called Arts Out West, where, because Cumbria's, there's a lot of tiny little towns and everyone's very spread out, so we just run, and they have really nice village halls with good equipment, all run by volunteers. And I looked at the things on Google Earth and I was going, there's nobody there. And he went, no, they'll come. It was like that, build it, that they will come. And so I did these village halls, and it was like every age group. There was like some sort of gothy types in their 30s, there was young people, there was very old people, and it was, you were looking going, right. And I would say at the beginning, you can't all like this. But it was just that thing, but if and then the bonding of things, and people, some people wouldn't go for everything, and some people would be shocked by things, there are old people, they just don't like you swearing if you say fuck there. And I often have people say to me, they said, it's nice because you didn't swear. I went, I fucking swore all the way through. But I think they sort of didn't notice it somehow.
Yeah.
I think as long as I don't do a lot of fluid humour, you know what I mean? And they don't like fluids.
Okay.
So I think they think that I'm not that dirty. So it's all right. But that is, I found really satisfying because, and also it's that thing, and going to towns like Barrow and Furness, it's a godforsaken place. You go, take a camera, and you've no idea what's going on in these towns. Nothing is going on. And so nice, because you genuinely cheer those people up. Because they've had a bloody good night out.
Yes. Yeah. So what started you on doing those little tours then of...
Just because I really enjoy it, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
And people say, I was a tiring touring, and I go, no, because I'm interested in, I don't know, there's something wrong with me, I think. This is when I was wandering around Barrow and Furness, and they've got an old ship and a submarine, and I'm quite interested in industrial history, social history, so I'm just interested to walk around a town. No matter how shit it is, I'll find something that interests me.
You're there for the culture, yeah.
I know, and in places where you go, right, there's really nothing to see here, I will find even that interesting about it. So I quite enjoy that, and then I enjoy giving them my view of their town.
Okay, so
if I get it right, so that people go, oh yes, then I'm like, oh yeah.
You feel you've hit the spot with them.
Yeah.
So you walk around the town first, taking notes about stuff.
And just see, and also sometimes just to see if anything happens. Just open yourself up to an encounter with somebody, and then often something does happen. And then you don't really know what you're looking for. Like, I'm not looking around going, what would be funny about? I'm just wandering around, going into a shop. If there's a little museum, I'll go in there. Someone will talk to you at some point. Something will happen. But just let yourself be open to it.
Yeah, and I mean that's the way you get new material, I suppose. Yeah. Because I mean it must be difficult after. I just feel sorry for these people, especially in the mainstream, that have to write a new. The expectation is there's a new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Especially if you're on TV. I mean, you must have found that with the radio show a bit to constantly just be churning stuff out.
Yeah, but
that's a great
that
way
is the nature of it. You have to, and that, like I didn't do a stand-up show last year, so I've got I've got a lot of backlog now, which is good to do this year. But that is the nature of it. You have to keep writing, and there's a lot of stuff I've had to put away because you're working on the new, and it's made me go, oh, but I really like that. We go, no, you can't have it. You can't have it. We put that away in the drawer, and it's always there. You can bring it out, but at the moment that's not on the table.
Okay, so why has that been put away? Because it doesn't.
You've got to make the good stuff as new.
Okay.
The new stuff as good as that was.
Right. Yeah.
And it's only when you know that you can't reach that you have to make that stuff.
You have to elevate it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, totally.
Yeah.
But your shows, are they quite general normally? They're not really about a thing, or do you prefer?
I talk about nothing. I think you're right.
Not at all.
I always pick a very general title. Like this year, it's called Thinking Bad Thoughts. Last year was Cruel to Be Kind, because I think whatever I talk about fits within that. So just a general title that's got a slight sort of edge, you know, she'll be a little bit mean or caustic or whatever, and then see what you've got.
Yeah. Have you ever wanted to do like a concept show though? Like,
I think I did do it first, and then realised that you write yourself into a corner, and it's not really what I do, because there's so much in real life, I think, that I would much rather talk about than go, I'm going to write a funny show about the history of microphones. You know, that's the, you know, I would go, well, why, has nothing happened to you? Or, you know, so it's not for me. I quite enjoy sometimes seeing those shows. Yeah, it's not for me.
I think it's a certain sort of person who will go on a journey, or vegetarian, or grow a Hitler moustache. Or if something happens to you as well in the mainstream, and you talk about that thing, and that can work. But then funny's funny, and there's a lot to be said for just a good solid hour. I think. I
mean, I do much more sort of stories. And I always have some sort of device thing with the audience, and like Thinking Bad Thoughts, I thought that's a really good way that I can then read a load of bad thoughts. So they're not going to, you know, they're not jokes, but they'll be funny, or they'll be like what you thought. So it's finding ways to do stand up, but within the show, but different devices for doing it.
Okay.
That opens it out a bit, I think.
And it gives you the freedom, doesn't it? Because they're there to see you, so you can sort of do something where it's not quite clear where it's going, or which you might not be able to do in a set gig. Although maybe the Comedy Store's different. I don't know. Can you do more experimental stuff there? Will the audience be no?
I mean, if you've worked, I mean, that's why I've made myself do all my new stuff this weekend, and it was really pleasing to go, oh, it is funny, because packed into 20 minutes at the Comedy Store, it's all really working, and that's great. But there are certain things you can't launch into a longer story that I would do in a theatre show, because people are going, well, you know, you're only on 20 minutes, we don't have 8 minutes for you to tell this story. You know, it's just. But in a theatre show, you need that, you know, because you can't have someone, to me, you can't just be going, oh, funny. You need someone to go, ooh, bit weird, interesting, funny, weird, ooh, you know, and engaged in you as well. You know, so you show more of yourself. But, you know, I think if you do that 20-minute set, it's like, we'll work in a small club, but in a bigger club, it's not what it's paid for. And I think you have to respect that.
Yeah. Is stand-up, do you think, always going to be your focus as well? Do you think... I mean, say these sitcoms that you've tried to write, could that take over as a main thing for you?
It's so weird, because I sort of love stand-up more and more. The more I do it, and also I love the self-containedness of it as well. But I think I'm always surprised that people stop doing it, because to me it's like, it's so hard to get good at it. Why would you stop doing it?
Yeah.
And you know, and I think, and also as I get older. Also, you're right, it's time for me to go and get my nails done, because they're chipping off, you see. The older I get, the more I think that there isn't an age limit. There's a sort of thing, I think you start to worry, go, oh, I'm getting a bit older, and the audience, oh, they look 18, can I relate to them? And then of course go, oh, fucking course I could, because I was 18. So you know what things were like then, but also I would hope that it means that I could be 80, and saying to a load of 80-year-olds, oh, I'm fucking pissed off to this, that, and the other. Of course, you're going to be more pissed off by then, aren't you? No. So I hope it means you could keep going forever, and I think I would hope that I wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
You know, I can see why people do, because it's hard to keep being funny.
It's a graft, yeah.
Yeah, but then it's also such a joy. And when it's good, all the praise is for you.
You don't have to share it with anyone.
Don't share it with anyone. Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming,
Oh,
Jo.
thank you. Cheers.
Lovely. Cheers.